tonight. A new University of Saskatchewan program aims to ease the province's shortage of doctors. Piapot First Nation marks the 150th anniversary of their community signing Treaty 4. And a tree that held a special place in Saskatoon's history comes down.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, September 9th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. A new program launched at the University of Saskatchewan is aiming to add more healthcare staff to the province. Students in the Master of Physician Assistant program will soon be in healthcare facilities, and as Helena Mahalik reports, they are especially needed in rural communities.
These students are the first cohort in the new Master of Physician Assistant Studies program. The $7 million program is funded by the provincial government, and it aims to ease Saskatchewan's doctor shortage.
In 2 years, when we're going to have 20 graduates coming out of the University of Saskatchewan, they've already been in our hospitals. They've seen the opportunities that are here for them in the big city, but also in rural communities far and wide across the province. So that's, I think, the best thing that we can do for recruitment.
Physician assistants come from all kinds of educational backgrounds, and they'll work hands-on with physicians.
Yeah, so as a physician assistant, our primary role is as a physician assistant. So we're trained and work basically as the eyes, the ears, the hands of the physician. So we're able to enable that physician to expand their practice.
There are currently only 4 practicing physician assistants in the province. With this degree, students can work in primary care, emergency medicine, cancer care, or surgical care. And there's a big emphasis on getting these students to remote communities once they graduate.
I see that there's a need in rural communities. So this program in particular was super important, that it has an emphasis on the rural aspect. And so it means a lot that Saskatchewan is offering those opportunities for students here to develop those skills, to become a very skilled provider in those communities.
Graduation day for these students is still 2 years away. But Cockrell says the government is making investments for the current healthcare system and to benefit the system's future.
We have to invest for 2 years from now, but we have to make that investment today. But we're also making significant investments right now to improve today. Some of the investments I'm thinking about the City Hospital project, how we're converting a big chunk of that hospital to more acute medicine focus so that we can improve the opportunities there in the emergency room for people to get access. So
the 20-seat master's program had 340 applicants, and 15 of the students selected are from Saskatchewan. Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Meanwhile, the province's nurses union is once again sounding the alarm about staffing shortages in that profession. It comes after it received results of a survey it sent to nurses across the province. Jeremy Warren has that story.
The Saskatchewan Union of Nurses says ignoring burnout in the profession could make staffing shortages worse. Back in April, Sun surveyed about 1,800 registered nurses. It asked about how staffing shortages affect their jobs. The results, the union says, are troubling. More than 80% of RNs surveyed believe short staffing on their unit in the past year put patients at risk. And more than half say they've considered leaving nursing for another career. The union says burnout is bad for nurses and their patients.
You know, we have OR rooms that are sitting empty because there's no nurses available to work in them. And so that's why we're seeing the list continuing to pile up and delay and canceled or delayed procedures, because we don't have the people to provide those services.
Slightly more than 90% of nurses surveyed said short staffing led to longer wait times for patients and delayed or missed assessments and procedures. The opposition NDP says the provincial government must stop ignoring nurses' concerns.
The government promised the nursing task force during the provincial election last fall. It's been 10 months and that hasn't happened. Why has that not happened? Why is the government not willing to sit down with nurses and frontline healthcare workers to actually hear the issues that they're facing.
In a statement to CBC News, the province touted its recruitment and retention strategies. It says chronically vacant nursing positions dropped by more than a third last year, and the last fiscal year saw a net gain of 900 new nurses across the province. Jeremy Warren, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Saskatchewan Air Ambulance has made significant upgrades to one of its aircraft. The government spent $3.5 million to retrofit its twin-engine airplane, including a larger entry door, a bigger stretcher, and an electronic lift. Saskatchewan Air Ambulance says the retrofit makes moving patients on and off the plane more efficient.
Well, the flying time is going to be the same for the airplane, but the capability to carry a patient with special needs has increased with this equipment. We're able to do it now versus where we might have delayed that transfer to ask for help from a different avenue.
The upgraded airplane has been flying since the spring. The province says Saskatchewan Air Ambulance is the oldest non-military medical transport service in North America. Well, we are back back to school season now, and with that usually comes the start of cold and flu season. Cases of the flu, COVID, and other respiratory illnesses typically rise in the fall, which is less than 2 weeks away now. So health experts say now is a good time to get vaccinated. But that can be harder for people in some provinces than others. Alberta, for instance, announced last month that most people in that province will now have to pay $100 if they want a COVID-19 vaccine dose this fall. The Alberta Medical Association has called that move, quote, counterproductive. The province is providing money to communities to build new accessible playgrounds. It was originally an election campaign promise by the Sask party last fall, and now applications are open for the program. It's welcome news for one Regina city councillor who has advocated for better playground accessibility because her daughter is a wheelchair user.
It's meaningful because it's not just us, but we've had an impact in the way that playgrounds are designed, the way that they're being built, and now we're seeing the funding follow the new standards to make playgrounds inclusive for everyone. So I'm very excited today.
The province is putting aside $3.75 million over the next 4 years for the program. It will match funds up to $50,000 to build a new playground or replace older equipment. Applications are being accepted until February 25th of next year. 7 First Nations in our province are marking 150 years since they signed on to Treaty 4. Tuesday marked the 150th anniversary of the event for Piapot First Nation north of Regina. And Louise Big Eagle was there to take in the commemorative event.
It's a day for gathering and reflecting for the people of Piapot First Nation. Chief Piapot signed Treaty 4 on September 9, 1875, a year after it was signed by other chiefs. All because Piapot was hunting for the winter season. 150 years later, his community commemorates his sacrifices.
He was opposed to being assimilated onto a reserve of the Cree people. He didn't want our people on a small piece of land.
Former Assembly of First Nations National Chief Overd Mercredi was an invited dignitary. He says Piapot was reluctant to sign the treaty, and when he did, the promises made to him were broken by the government.
So 150 years later, we're doing a commemoration, not a celebration. The only time we can celebrate our treaties is when they're fully implemented.
It's also a way to honor Chief Piapot's personal items, like clothing, eagle fan, and pipe, that were recently repatriated back to his community.
I immediately thought about Chief Piapot, and one of the things that he used to think about ahead in our future, today is our future. And, you know, I ask that his spirit will come forward again and take pity on some of our younger politicians, younger people, so that we can bring those back forward and start making them come alive, I guess.
Today, the community is still advocating for the treaties to be fulfilled and the promises of 150 years ago to be honored. But for now, it's committed to ceremonies, language, and preserving culture for future generations. Louise Big Eagle, CBC News, Pipot First Nation.
Well, it is that time of year where we get all the colors of the rainbow. Still hints of summer out there, but starting to look suspiciously more like fall. And of course, that's what it's been feeling sometimes overnight over this last week. Weather specialist Riley Lachuk is here to tell us what's in store in his forecast after the break. The NDP is calling on the government to conduct a multi-agency review after the arrest of Romana Didelot and over a dozen of her supporters in Richmond last week. They say widespread government failures allowed the cult to occupy a former school building.
Where has the Sask party and the local MLA, Doug Steele, been on this issue? Where were the marshals? Why did it take so long for the SHA to step in? And why has this been allowed to happen for 2 years?
The government says it does not direct police agencies or get involved in police investigations. And there, of course, has been much attention focused on Romana Didelot and her followers in this last week. The group began as part of the larger QAnon movement, which believes there is a secret cabal running the government. And that has now evolved into a sovereign citizen movement, people who believe they are free from government laws, taxes, and other regulations. For more on this, we are joined by Christine Sarteski. She is a professor of social work and criminology at Chatham University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and has been watching this story closely. Christine, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So followers of Romana Didelot believe she is effectively the supreme ruler of all the land. What leads someone to believe that sort of thing?
Well, Romana herself, I believe, thinks she's very special, and I think her followers believe in that too. They don't ask for evidence. She says outrageous things, and they believe her. And the more outrageous things she says, it doesn't seem to matter. They just believe anything she says.
Now, this group has been referred to many as a cult, but what exactly defines a cult?
I think a movement of people, especially those who live together, who, in her case, they all believe the same ideas. They dress alike and feel like wearing a particular uniform is important. And they're all very dedicated to their follower, and they make sure to never say anything very negative about her at all, and to always exalt her in every possible way.
Now, this group has been in Richmond for almost 2 years now, and we've heard reports from residents there of them being filmed by group members or even harassed sometimes. How does something like this go on for that long?
Well, I think that the Richmond folks really did desperately try to get help, and it could have been that I guess others didn't really see it as being as big of a problem as the Richmond folks did, who were dealing with it every day. So other people just may not have known what they were dealing with, and they figured, hey, they're not really that harmful. They're just kind of, minding their own business, and so not really a big deal.
Have we seen any other examples of cults or groups that are like this? Does this kind of remind you of any in particular?
Well, some people compare them to groups such as Heaven's Gate. Others, there was a group out in Oregon that was very similar. I don't think they're quite that extreme, but they are similar in the sense that they are very dedicated to their leader, and they just don't question anything she says, no matter how ridiculous it is.
Now, Didelot and the man who owns the building where she and her followers have been staying in Richmond now face criminal charges. The health authority also says the building is not safe for people to live there. So how does that, or will that, impact a group like this, given how dedicated they are to Romana Didelot?
I think that it'll just make it harder for them to communicate and sort of continue on with how they were living before. But I do think that they will reconnect at some point. and remain connected, it seems like, but time will tell, and we're going to see what happens in the unfolding of this.
All right, Christine, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Christine Sarteski is a professor of social work and criminology at Chatham University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
I thought I'd start a big picture tonight because it's not just the prairie provinces, not just Saskatchewan feeling some of that warm southerly air. Just have a look at some of these temperatures in the west. Edmonton at 30 through the afternoon, Calgary at 26, Winnipeg at 28 just south of the border. In North Dakota getting 28s and 29s to the afternoon. So you can really see where this ridge in the jet stream sits right now, allowing some of that warmer southerly air into southern and for most of central parts of Saskatchewan. Some cooler temperatures on the map as we've gotten throughout the afternoon here. 16, for example, in Collins Bay, but looking at 27s and 28s across much of the south as forecast this afternoon. And we are looking at some of this heat sticking around as we get through the next couple of days here, even. That ridge in the jet stream really clearing us out, so mostly sunny skies through the afternoon hours. Still looking at some air quality statements into northwestern parts of the province, pretty isolated. That's because of fires that are burning near the Saskatchewan-Alberta border as we have gotten throughout the day again today. So still dealing with some air quality concerns as we start to see wind shifting around. That does start to ease a bit as we get into the day. On Wednesday, we'll also introduce a bit more cloud cover as we head into the day on Wednesday as well. That's because of an area of low pressure over the territories and a weak cold front draping down through Saskatchewan and Alberta as we get through the day. As we get into the evening hours along this line, could see some showers popping up, maybe the odd rumble of thunder with some of the heat that we're looking at. But as we get into the day on Thursday, that's when I think we have our best chance of seeing some showers or some thunderstorms in the south, particularly through the later part of the day into the overnight hours into Friday morning. This is because we also have another low south of the border, and we're seeing a bit of instability where these two systems meet here. So we'll talk rainfall amounts in just a moment here, but really looking at the potential for, again, some heavy downpours, some strong winds, maybe some hail, just because of some of that heat and humidity that will be building over the next couple of days. A little bit hard to pinpoint some of these rainfall amounts just because they are probably pretty sporadic in nature, where we do see some of that instability as we get through the next couple of days. Overnight temperatures as we head into the day on Wednesday, 9 degrees overnight in Regina. In Yorkton, 12 in Saskatoon, mostly clear skies. L'Orange at 13 degrees. And into the afternoon, Ethan, temperatures close to 30 degrees. Wouldn't be surprised, though, if we saw some temperatures above the 30 mark.
Okay, thank you, Riley. Well, a piece of living history has come to an end in Saskatoon. Dan Zakreski has that story.
They started early in the morning at the top in a cherry picker 7 stories high. And then it was step ladders and chainsaws. And finally, a bobcat, and ropes, and more chainsaws. Finally, 9 hours later, the legendary Montgomery Place Plains Cottonwood went down with a thump in a cloud of bark and sawdust. It was called the Junior tree, named after the family that owns this yard. But in this neighborhood of trees, it was known simply as the big tree. For generations, kids came from blocks around to try climbing its low-hanging branches. 6 years ago, it went into the record books as the province's widest tree, at just under 2 meters. After 7 decades, the normal lifespan for this kind of cottonwood, it started to decay. The city contracted Living Skies Tree Service to bring it down before it became a safety hazard. Over the course of the day, car-sized pieces of trunk were hauled to the city compost yard, but not all of it. A local chainsaw artist is going to preserve some of the trunk and carve a memorial for the people of Montgomery Place to remember the tree. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Well, harvest is well underway across the province. 23% of crops are harvested, but that is well behind the 5-year average of 40% and the 10-year average of 34%, according to the province's latest crop report. We'll see how progress is impacted by all that rain later this week. Stay with us. We have more news for you after the break. Welcome back. The Saskatchewan Roughriders were back at work Tuesday after improving to a league-best 10-2 record over the weekend. The Riders won the Banjo Bowl against Winnipeg Saturday for the first time since 2018. It was a struggle for the offense, though, as they only managed to score one touchdown. It's only the third time in franchise history the Green and White have had a 10-2 record. Despite that, Riders quarterback Trevor Harris says the team is far from satisfied.
If I would tell you that, on our goal sheet was to win 10 games, I'd be lying to you. So it's great that we're where we are right now, but that only means that we've given ourselves the right to be 10-2 right now and be in a position where we have this small lead in the West. But we know that what we've done up to this point doesn't matter. What it comes down to is how we approach the rest of the season, and if we don't come at it with a killer instinct, then we'll really regret it. So we're just 0-0. We got to come away with a win this week.
The Riders got some help from the Edmonton Elks on the weekend as they defeated the Calgary Stampeders. That means the Green and White once again have a 4-point cushion on top spot in the West Division standings. Next up for the Riders is a matchup with the slumping Montreal Alouettes. That game is set to kick off at 5 o'clock on Saturday from Mosaic Stadium.
All right, prepare for another warm day as we head into the day on Wednesday. Keep in mind normal temperature for this time of the year, daytime high 19 degrees, so a full 10 degrees above that in Regina as we head into Wednesday. Mix of sun and clouds into Thursday. This is when we'll start to see some cloud cover building in at 28 degrees. And then as we head into the weekend, we do have that risk of thunderstorms late Thursday into Friday that does carry on 24 degrees. Then a rather unsettled weekend with the potential for some showers Saturday into Sunday. Temperatures staying in the low 20s and above seasonal for this time of the year right into early next week. And for Saskatoon, really much the same. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if we did see some 30s on the map as we head into the day on Wednesday. Mainly sunny skies, 29, 28, with a bit more cloud cover, I think, building in as we get into Thursday. That does feel a chance of some showers, maybe some thunderstorms into Friday. And Ethan, we are looking at things staying a little bit unsettled as we get into Sunday, Monday of next week. But again, temperatures staying above seasonal for this time of the year, both highs and lows for this time of the year.
You won't hear me complaining. Thanks, Riley. And that is our news for this Tuesday. For more news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. You can also download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thank you so much for watching.